This week on JTV, we're going to show you how to get the most out of your garden flowers. Flowers you grew yourself, and you can create beautiful arrangements just like these. Easy enough that even kids can do them. It's a fun way for you to get the most out of your beautiful garden flowers. So let's get started with today's project. The first thing that we need to think about when we're getting flowers from the garden is care and handling. I collected a bucket of flowers. Yesterday, in the very early morning, we go out because in the early morning, that's when the flowers are the most hydrated. It's been cool at night, or possibly there's been dew in the morning, and all of that strength is inside the flower. That's a great time to cut. We don't want to cut late in the afternoon because many times with the summer sun, the flowers can be stressed. Each one of these individual flowers is completely different. We have some black-eyed Susans that we have, and what we did was we took the lower foliage off and cut them. We have Rudbeckia. You'll notice this beautiful flower. Out here on the outside, those petals have started to turn. But the great thing about Rudbeckia is we can strip those petals off the outside, and that still gives us a beautiful decorative cone. That's why it's known as a cone flower. So by pulling those petals off, we've got something that's beautiful. We can also pick ones that have great petals all the way around too. We also have Queen Anne's lace. Now here's an interesting note. In different parts of the country, this is a beautiful flower. Here in Michigan, it grows all along the roadsides. So some people perceive it as a weed. It's interesting, in different parts of the country, we feel differently about flowers. Magnolia leaves are highly prized here in Michigan, where in the South, they're extremely abundant. All sorts of beautiful things. We can use herbs. We can even have a few roses that we cut. Even foliages too. Our coleus. It's a beautiful foliage, and we can use that to enhance our arrangement. Also remember that we can use the floral fan deck too to get different meanings for the flowers and select different colors. Coneflower is here in the purple deck. And when we use this, the meaning behind coneflower is justice and impartiality. Let's take a look at our Queen Anne's lace. Self-reliance or fantasy, a haven or delicate femininity. That's definitely what a beautiful flower like Queen Anne's lace says when we add it to an arrangement. There's all sorts of things. Sedum, Veronica, I trimmed a little bit of that. It was interesting because I have ones like this that are starting to bloom out towards the top, and then I had another that was completely bloomed out and it started to send extra shoots. Flowers from the garden are completely different than flowers that we would get at a flower cellar because there's a personal attachment to them, and maybe we might have a few bug holes in a leaf or maybe an imperfect petal, but it was grown in our garden, and so it means a little bit more. Let's see what the meaning behind Veronica is too. Fidelity and zinnias, I have some of those today too. Thoughts of absent friends, and yellow specifically means a daily remembrance. If you've not experienced the floral fan deck, make sure you check it out at ubloom.com. We have a copy that you can play with online and then click through to get your very own copy of the floral fan deck directly from the John Henry Company. It's a great asset and helps you find out more about the flowers that you're going to use every day. So, with our water then, our flowers are cleaned, they need to be hydrated, so we need to give them a good drink. Like everything, flowers are dependent on water. So we've placed them in a bucket, and I have water down inside there. It's not too deep, and it's also filled with floral nutrient. The floral nutrient I use is Chrysal Professional 2. It comes in these great tea bags. There's one for a 1.5 quart and one for a gallon. In my pitcher, I filled it up with 1.5 quarts of water and added one of the tea bags. I let it sit in there so it would dissolve. And I leave the tea bag inside there so I have a visual reminder that that water's already been treated with a floral nutrient. We use that water inside here and let our flowers sit inside there to drink up water and get fully hydrated. I usually let them sit out for a couple of hours at room temperature so that the water can get all the way up inside the flower. The next step is the hardening process. It's a lot like the vegetables that are in your refrigerator. I place the entire bucket inside my refrigerator to make sure that they harden off and get nice and firm. Think about that head of lettuce that you buy at the grocery store and you put it in the crisper drawer. That cool temperature helps keep it really crisp. The cool temperature for my flowers helps keep them crisp as well. So these are the flower selections that we'll use today. I also had some very short stems on some of my flowers. So in those, I used little fruit jars and filled them up with a floral nutrient water and just made sure that my stems were down inside. So you've got lots of different containers around the house you can use for shorter stems. And we have lots of different vases today to show you how to use those shorter stems too. So, the next thing we need to talk about are the containers that we're going to use. We have the ability to use different types of vases. I have all sorts of different ones today. This is one of my favorites. It's a little bird that's holding a vase on its back. We can use little tiny vases like this, or maybe we have a pitcher or a little vase. Anything works great to hold a few flowers. We also could use foam. Maybe we want to use a clay pot like this because it's a garden type arrangement. We can use our foam and a liner like this. Now this is a commercial plastic liner, but you could use a cottage cheese container or any plastic piece that you might have. Maybe a to-go cup. Anything works good if it fits down inside the container. We can use our foam. I've used a block of the artesia, fit it to our container, and bevel the edges. The liner allows me to add the water. And we're ready for a great little garden centerpiece. I created one today in this little container, using the foam inside. But notice how the flowers all go together and create something that has ones or twos of different types. I have the sedum inside here too, and we know what the meaning of that is, and some ferns and also some hosta leaves. I love using hosta leaves because they allow us to cover a large area. There are even some giant ones that are big like this. Imagine one flower, like a sunflower, with a couple of giant hosta leaves. That might be all you need inside an arrangement. Something like this can be fast. Fill up our vase. I'm adding the hosta leaves 2 different lengths so that they sit up like that. And then my sunflower goes in the middle. See how easy that is? It's a great way for us to bring flowers inside. Now let's take a look at a couple of other smaller containers too. We can use a jar like this. I love the ball fruit jars because we have the top that comes off, and this can help us make a beautiful design. We'll use our floral nutrient water. We like to fill them up nice and full because flowers need that water. I took the outer casing of the lid itself and ran a couple pieces of tape across it. I just used the waterproof tape, and then we can screw that on, and it forms a grid work across the opening so that we can place our flowers and foliages through that. Let's take a couple of hosta leaves and a piece of spring rye. We'll strip off the bottom so that we don't have foliage below the water line. Foliage below the water line easily rots, so that'll help keep our water fresher. Notice how that great little grid work holds that at an angle and doesn't allow it to slip down too far inside the vase. We'll select a few of our bigger flowers. The Rudbeckia, that's beautiful. And then the one that looks like a cone. Add that on the other side. A few pieces of Veronica. It's so interesting because in the Victorian days, people used to communicate with flowers. They would actually put together arrangements that meant something and then send them to a friend to send a hidden message. Many times, people would respond using another flower arrangement. We've kind of gotten away from that in today's marketplace. But what a fun way for us to share our garden flowers with other people. That's a fast, simple arrangement using the grid technique. And let's look at one little tiny vase. Now, many times we have a vase like this that can hold one flower. Another trick for you is many times having water and foliages or flowers inside this might discolor the vase. And it's hard to get inside there and clean the vase. A great way to do that is to drop in a half of a denture tablet. Yep, half of a denture tablet and some water. It'll fizz up and clean it out. The other thing that people get frustrated with too is that many times narrow vases will get moisture on the inside and they can't get it to completely evaporate. And that moisture builds up on the inside. A great thing to work with that is using regular rubbing alcohol and putting it inside the vase itself. Turn it upside down on a paper towel and the alcohol will completely evaporate and leave your vase completely clean. It also sanitizes it too, so you won't have any problems later on. So, my favorite little bird vase. I found this one time in a store in Alabama, and I had to have it. The great part about a little tiny vase is that it lets us use single flowers. My zinnia isn't very long, but it's a great size for this vase. One stem of an ivy leaf. I love pansies, and as you can see, in Michigan, it's gotten a little bit warmer, so my pansies are kind of long. I really need to rip them out, but at the same time I thought it's great to be able to have that stem and put that inside here. Knowing that purple and yellow are a great complementary color range, we'll add a few of these little coreopsis down inside. Our final step for all of our garden arrangements is to use Kreisel Professional Glory. It's an anti-transparent, and we use it on all of the flowers and foliage. It helps seal in the moisture and prevent the flowers from evaporating water off of their faces. It makes them last 20% longer. It's a great product for us to use to help our flowers last even longer. I'm reminded when I'm making garden arrangements of a very dear friend, Haskell Ergel, who taught me about floral design. We went to Haskell's house one time in Waxhaw, North Carolina for a birthday party. And Haskell has a glorious garden, all filled with flowers, that he goes out and harvests beautiful flowers every day to create beautiful arrangements. It made me realize how important flowers are. Gardens are a great thing to have. It's a wonderful way for us to interact with flowers. But the experience gets better when we're able to create arrangements. It's fun for us. We can share that experience with kids. And beautiful flowers like this enhance our lives, no matter where they come from. Until next week, keep having fun with flowers.